An anglerfish should not be able to exist. Not in a world with no sunlight. Not with a body that looks like a mistake. And yet, the proof is real. There are photographs, there is footage, there are specimens with a glowing lure on their own head, waiting in darkness that would crush most life. So here are the two questions that make scientists careful with their words. How can a predator make its own light in the deep ocean? And why does the anglerfish's life story get so strange that it stops feeling like an animal and starts feeling like a system? Because deep-sea monster is not an explanation, it's an alarm. Most ocean life is built around the sun. Even far below the surface, the energy begins up top. Plankton, fish, predators, a chain of living things powered indirectly by light. The deep sea is where that chain thins out. Food becomes rare, movement becomes expensive, and the environment punishes anything that wastes energy. That should make predators weaker, but the anglerfish does the opposite. It becomes more extreme. Here's the first thing that isn't normal. It doesn't hunt by chasing, it hunts by waiting. In the deep, chasing is a bad investment. You burn calories you may never replace. You risk injury in a place where healing is slow and resources are scarce. So the deep rewards patience, stillness, ambush. The anglerfish is built around that logic. Many species have a large head and a mouth that looks oversized because in the deep, meals are unpredictable. When food finally arrives, you don't get to be picky. Research suggests some deep-sea predators can swallow prey close to their own size because refusing a meal might mean waiting a long time for the next one. Micro payoff, the anglerfish isn't built for a steady diet, it's built for rare opportunities. Now look at the signature feature, that glowing lure. A modified spine extending from the head, ending in a fleshy bulb that can emit light. That should not exist in darkness because light costs energy. So why would evolution spend energy to create a lamp? Here's the problem. In the deep, light is not decoration. Light is control. Most animals down there live in an information desert. It's cold, it's dark, sound travels, vibrations matter, but sight becomes limited. So any signal that can manipulate attention becomes powerful. The anglerfish uses light to manufacture a moment. It doesn't need to search for prey across kilometers of empty water. It needs to bring prey into range. And that's what the lure is. Not a flashlight, a lie. Something that resembles food, or movement, or a harmless glow in the dark. Something curious creatures cannot ignore. Micro payoff, the lure turns the prey's curiosity into a weapon against it. But the lure creates a second question immediately. Where does the light come from? Because there are two unsettling possibilities. Either the fish is producing the chemistry itself, which means it evolved a sophisticated biological light system, or it's outsourcing the job. And the deep ocean loves outsourcing. Many deep-sea organisms produce light through symbiotic bacteria, living in specialized organs and generating glow as a byproduct of their biology. Scientists have studied these relationships in various species, and research suggests some anglerfish use bacterial partners to power the light. Micro payoff, the anglerfish may not be making light, it may be farming it. That is not a simple animal behavior, that is management. A built-in partnership where one organism maintains another to weaponize illumination. Now the hunting strategy becomes clearer. Stillness, camouflage, then a small moving light that creates the illusion of safety. The prey approaches, the mouth opens, and the deep sea takes the prey back. This should be enough to make the anglerfish feel abnormal, but it gets worse. Because the lure is only the visible oddity. The anglerfish's real abnormality is how it treats the idea of a normal life. Most animals have the same basic plan: grow, survive, find a mate, reproduce, repeat. In the deep sea, finding a mate is a problem that can be harder than finding food. Think about the scale.
In darkness, in vast water with low population density, how did two individuals of the same species meet? If you rely on chance, you may never reproduce.
It weaponizes darkness itself. Because darkness is not just the absence of light down there. It is a filter. It removes long-distance vision. It removes easy navigation. It removes the ability to judge threats from far away. It compresses life into short-range decisions. And the anglerfish is built to dominate that short range. The lure is not a gimmick. It is a correction to the deep's biggest weakness. In the deep, you can't easily advertise. You can't easily attract. Everything is spread out. So the anglerfish becomes the attractor. It turns the emptiness into a funnel, not with geography like a shoreline, with light, a point of interest in a black world. The prey sees it and makes the same mistake again and again. Approach, investigate, commit, and then the mouth opens and the entire interaction ends. That's why the anglerfish feels so unnatural. It doesn't just hunt prey, it manipulates behavior. Now connect that to reproduction one last time. The deep sea makes meeting rare, so the anglerfish manipulates that too. Instead of relying on repeated encounters, it turns a single encounter into permanence. A male becomes a guaranteed supply, a solution carried on the body. Light solves the prey problem. Fusion solves the mate problem. Both are responses to the same enemy, distance. And that is the final reveal. Nothing about anglerfish is normal because it is not an animal story. It is an environment story. A portrait of what happens when an ecosystem is cold, dark, vast, and stingy with opportunity. In that ecosystem, normal strategies fail. Speed wastes energy, searching wastes energy, waiting becomes the only affordable move. So the anglerfish waits. But it doesn't wait passively. It creates a trigger that makes waiting productive, a lure that turns curiosity into contact, a body that can accept meals whenever they finally arrive, a reproductive solution that prevents loneliness from becoming extinction. Everything is built around one principle. In the deep, you don't get many chances, so you must convert a single chance into certainty. That is what the anglerfish does. And it leaves you with a bigger, more uncomfortable thought. If the deep sea can produce solutions this extreme, then the deep sea is not a quiet background to life on Earth. It is an engine of invention we barely observe. We label its creatures as monsters because we see them through surface world expectations. But from the deep's perspective, the anglerfish isn't a monster. It's reasonable. It's optimized. It is the predictable outcome of rules enforced over geological time. Scarcity forces patience. Darkness forces deception. Distance forces permanence. That's the deep sea in a single blueprint. And if those rules begin to change, if oxygen shifts, if currents shift, if the rain of food from above changes, then specialists like the anglerfish will be among the first living systems to reflect it. Not with a warning we can read easily, with distribution changes, with population shifts, with encounters that feel rarer or suddenly more frequent. Because when stability breaks, the creatures built for stability become signals. So the next time you see an anglerfish, don't just focus on the teeth or the glow or the strange proportions. Focus on what it represents. A world where evolution is pressured into extremes. A world where normal is too expensive. A world where darkness isn't empty. It's used. And the fact that this world exists under most of the planet should change how you see the ocean. Not as one environment, but as layered worlds with different rules. Rules that build animals that feel impossible. Until you remember the truth, nature doesn't care what feels normal. Nature cares what survives. That's what the anglerfish does with its light. It manufactures contact. It turns a dead environment into a place where something finally approaches. But reproduction is the deeper problem. Because hunting can be solved with patience, mating cannot. If you never meet, you never continue. So anglerfish treat mating like a permanent emergency. A male drifting through black water faces an almost impossible task: find the right species, in the right place, at the right time, in an environment that doesn't offer landmarks. So the male doesn't just mate, he locks in. In some species, after attachment, the male may fuse tissues with the female over time. The boundary between them becomes less clear. It's not just clinging, it becomes integration. In some cases described in scientific literature, the male can end up functioning mainly as a source of sperm supported by the female. Micropayoff. The anglerfish solves distance by removing separation. And that should change how you see the deep sea. Because we like to imagine nature as elegant, balanced, fair. The deep sea is not built for fairness. It's built for outcomes. If the outcome is reproduction, then any strategy that guarantees it becomes favored, even if it looks monstrous to us. Now think about what that implies. A female can carry a male like an accessory. In some species, she may carry more than one. Not as a choice, as insurance. Because in a world where you may only encounter a mate once, the safest strategy is to make that encounter permanent. This is not romance, it's logistics. And it makes the anglerfish feel less like a single creature and more like a system, a platform that collects the components it needs to keep going. But here's the problem. If you hear this story as weird sex, you miss the real horror. The real horror is what it says about the deep. Scarcity forces biology to become extreme. Light becomes bait. Mating becomes fusion. Bodies become tools. That's not a metaphor. It's the logic of an environment where every wasted action has a cost. Now return to the lure for a moment. People assume the anglerfish turns on a light. But it's not always that simple. Many deep-sea animals use bioluminescence in controlled ways: pulses, flickers, patterns, timing that may mimic small prey or movement cues. If the anglerfish's lure is powered by symbiotic bacteria in some cases, then the fish isn't producing light directly. It is maintaining a living light source. That means it has to control the conditions, it has to regulate, it has to manage. Micropayoff. The lure isn't just a lamp, it's a habitat. A microenvironment on the fish's head designed to keep light-producing bacteria working. And then there's the mouth. Because the lure is only half the trap. The other half is what happens when prey commits. In the deep, prey can't afford to be picky. It follows signals, it investigates movement, it approaches anything that might be food. The anglerfish turns that into a fatal mistake. The jaws open wide, the teeth hold. The prey doesn't escape by struggling, it escapes by never approaching. That's why the lure is such a brutal design. It takes a normal survival behavior, curiosity, opportunism, and converts it into death. Micropayoff. The deep sea punishes curiosity harder than the surface ever does. Now ask the next question. If the anglerfish is so perfectly built for the deep, why does it still feel like we don't understand it? Because the anglerfish isn't one story. It's a family of different species with variations that don't map cleanly onto one simple explanation. Some live deeper than others. Some have different lures. Some have different attachment patterns. Some don't fuse the same way. Some may rely on different cues for finding mates. And our observation is limited. We don't watch them live for long periods. We rarely observe courtship. We rarely see the full hunting cycle. Much of what we know comes from specimens, brief footage, and inference. Micropayoff. In the deep sea, the absence of data can look like mystery, even when the mechanism is real. But it gets worse. Because the anglerfish isn't just adapting to the deep, it's adapted to a deep that is supposed to be stable. Cold, dark, pressurized, predictable. A world where change arrives slowly.
Here's the problem. The surface ocean is changing quickly, and the deep is not isolated forever. Heat moves downward over time. Currents shift. Oxygen levels can change. Food availability shifts as surface ecosystems change. Even the amount of organic matter falling into the deep can vary with surface conditions. And a predator built for rare opportunities is sensitive to those shifts. If prey becomes scarcer, the anglerfish can wait longer, but only up to a point. If prey distribution changes, the anglerfish can't just migrate like a tuna. It's not built for long-distance, high-speed travel. It's built to sit and trap. Micro payoff. The anglerfish's strength is patience, and patience becomes a liability if the world stops delivering. Now consider the deeper implication. If the deep sea starts changing, the anglerfish is not just a weird animal, it's a measurement device. A living indicator of how stable the deep still is. Because when stable environments destabilize, specialists suffer first. And the anglerfish is one of the most extreme specialists ever produced. So the real reason nothing about it is normal is this. It exposes the deep's rules. Scarcity, distance, darkness, stability. The anglerfish is what you get when those rules are enforced for millions of years. But if those rules begin to break, then the anglerfish's entire blueprint starts to look less like an adaptation and more like a fragile contract with an environment that is no longer keeping its side. And there's one final detail that ties all of it together: light, hunger, mating, and the deep's brutal logic, in a way that makes the anglerfish feel less like a creature and more like a warning sign. Because the anglerfish doesn't just live in darkness, it weaponizes darkness itself.
And a species that fails to reproduce doesn't matter how good it is at hunting. So deep-sea animals evolve extreme solutions. Some become hermaphroditic, some use chemical trails, some time reproduction with currents. Some rely on signals we barely understand. Anglerfish go even further. In some anglerfish species, the male is tiny compared to the female, so small it looks like a different animal. The female is the hunter with the lure. The male becomes something else, a seeker, a living answer to the mating problem. He roams the deep, following chemical cues, searching for a female in an environment where searching should be impossible. Micro payoff? In the deep sea, reproduction can be the most dangerous hunt of all. Now pause on that size difference. A massive predator and a miniature male. That alone breaks your expectations, but there's a reason it happens. A small male requires less food. He can survive on less energy. He can spend more time searching. He can afford to drift, to follow scents, to wait for a signal. The female, meanwhile, invests in being a stable killing platform. She becomes a trap in the dark. She becomes the place where food arrives, not the one that spends energy chasing it. That division of labor is not romantic, it's survival economics. But here's the problem. Even with chemical cues, the odds are still terrible. Vastness is still vastness. So some anglerfish species solve it in a way that feels almost illegal. They don't just meet, they merge. In certain species, research suggests the male can bite onto the female and eventually fuse, connecting tissues and, in some cases, sharing circulation. The male becomes permanently attached, effectively turning into a reproductive partner that the female carries. It is one of the strangest solutions in vertebrate biology. Micro payoff? The anglerfish doesn't just find a mate, it removes the possibility of losing one. Now the whole life strategy comes into focus. The female waits and hunts with light. The male searches and attaches. The deep sea's greatest problem, distance, gets solved by permanence. And that is why the anglerfish feels like it was designed by an environment, not by comfort. Because the deep sea doesn't reward what looks normal, it rewards what works under scarcity. But we still haven't reached the most unsettling point. Because once you understand the lure and the mating strategy, you start to realize the anglerfish is not just an animal with weird features. It is a blueprint for how the deep forces biology into extremes. And the deeper you go into that blueprint, the more the anglerfish stops looking like a monster. It starts looking like a message. A message that says the deep ocean runs on rules we barely recognize. And the next rule is the one people almost never talk about because it sounds too strange to be true. In the deep sea, survival is not always about being better. Sometimes it's about being impossible to remove.